Welcome to Politics Unplugged. Red for Ed. Thousands of teachers from across Colorado descending on the state capitol in downtown Denver for 2 days back to back. They're trying to convince lawmakers to change the way education is funded. They want more money for classrooms, more money for programs like special education, and more pay.
Today we're all here to advocate not only for ourselves as teachers but for our students as well. We don't have enough money in our classrooms to educate our children in the way that they deserve to be educated, that they need to be educated.
Now, lawmakers say at this point in the legislative session there isn't much they can do.
The timing is not ideal at all. We're in the final 2 weeks. As I said much earlier, we are pretty much locked into what will be occurring. The overall budget has been established and we know what's available, and there is no more to be spent in that arena.
Teachers say the battle is far from over, and they are not alone. Rallies like these are going on in other states as well as teachers fight for more funding. And joining us to talk about some of these issues are Amy Baca-Ollard of the Colorado Education Association and State Representative Jim Wilson. And first, thank you both for being here. We're delighted to have you here to talk about this obviously very heated subject, and very, I think a lot of people are really interested in what's happening with the state legislature and with teachers. But first, why now, Amy, when we know the state legislature has less than 2 weeks to go?
Well, you know, I mean, I think really this started to grow from activism happening all across the country. And our educators here in Colorado have been under years of underfunding for our public schools. And I think as they began to see educators from across the country, you know, use their voice to speak up for their students, they decided that the time is now in Colorado to use our voice. You know, as you said, the legislative session has not ended, so we do still have time to speak with our legislators, our elected officials, and let them know what's happening in our public schools. But we also do have a recognition that this is not just about this legislative session. This goes beyond just the legislature and what we can do as a Colorado community to fund our schools.
And we saw you on Denver 7 this week. You specifically said that this was ill-timed and ill-played out. What do you mean by that?
Well, and simply the fact that the first time that a group of educators showed up was actually the day that Representative Pedersen and I introduced the school finance bill for this year, which is by far the best bill since I've been in the legislature and the time that I've been retired as superintendent of schools. So showing up on that day when it was already quote unquote a done deal, we'd worked really hard to get that through. So that's what I was talking about, the timing, and I certainly appreciate all the educators that have shown up today, but unfortunately the legislature will be adjourning in about 2 weeks, and it's a long time till January, and memories kind of get short around the Golden Dome.
And this is a long haul, though, as you said, Amy. So do you feel like you've made your point now, or what's in the future here?
Well, you know, I mean, we have certainly appreciated the opportunities to come down and meet face to face with our elected officials, you know, and hope those conversations will continue into the summer, into the fall. And, you know, one thing that we're hoping for is that our elected officials will commit to while we certainly appreciate that $150 million buy down of the budget stabilization factor this year, which actually it's not final yet, that hasn't become a law yet, but that still leaves a $672 million hole in school funding here in Colorado, and certainly that has impacts on our students and on our school districts and on our communities all across Colorado. So yes, we hope that this continues well beyond today.
Do you feel like lawmakers are listening? I mean, you know, as you said, not the best timing and memories are short.
Well, I do think they're listening. The challenge is that education and the education funding is extremely complex.
Right.
Having been a superintendent of schools, when it gets down to the district level, it really gets complex. But it is a complex formula, it's a complex process, but more and more legislators are starting to become educated, and that's one of the good things about everyone being around talking the educational issues, is that we get an education. I had 40 years in education, so I've been there and done that. I know how it works, and I've been trying to educate my colleagues, and they're starting to understand the impact that some of the things that we do have on our local school districts.
So what do you think is missing then from the conversation? I mean, where's the disconnect?
I would say the biggest disconnect, again, it's an educational process. I'm amazed at how many educators I've talked to at the Capitol that believe that we actually set their salaries. Now in Oklahoma they do. The state legislature, it's a state salary schedule. And I've been amazed at how many staff members have shown up here at the Capitol saying, we want you to give us more money for our salaries. And we said, we only give money to the districts, and the districts at the local school board level determine where those dollars will be spent.
Well, and I'd say, you know, there certainly is an understanding that money flows from the state down to districts, and, you know, districts make decisions, budget decisions with those dollars. But at the same time, when, you know, again, there's been an underfunding. This year, the budget stabilization factor was $822 million. So that's, you know, what the money by which we were not funding our schools this year alone. That impacts a district's ability, and so I think people, what they're coming down to say is, you know, help us buy that budget stabilization factor down by more, so that our districts are not making difficult decisions between, do we spend our resources to attract and retain quality educators that we know are so important in the classroom, or do we do program X, Y, or Z?
And I know Governor Hickenlooper is supportive. He did talk to teachers Friday, told them the state owes them money, but he said the funding issue cannot be fixed overnight. Listen in.
I realize that we will never, ever be able to maintain a strong economy without having a great education system. And I know that having a great education system requires great teachers, and great teachers deserve to get paid.
And I think everybody wants a great education system, right? There's no disagreement there, but it's just getting to that point. He's a lame duck. Does that put lawmakers in a tough position here?
I really don't believe that that has any influence at all on this situation. The governor recommended $100 million for the budget stabilization buy down, and we upped that to $150, and I believe that he'll go ahead and approve that. I think that bill will go through. So I don't think that that's really a factor, because it's larger than any one governor. This is an ongoing issue. Amy was talking about the size of the factor now. Since I've been in the legislature, we've just about cut that in half, which is pretty significant when you figure we have to balance the budget, and health care dollars have been eating up a large part of our budget.
Balancing the budget. Boy, it's always a tough conversation, isn't it? Thank you both so much for your time and your insight. I appreciate you both being here. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll be right back.